Coming up in Down Under EV Adventures, it's time for another range test with the Atto 3. How will my 2-year-old Atto go on a 200-kilometre trip? Hello everyone from wherever you're watching, welcome back to the channel, thanks for joining me. And if you're wondering why I said 2 years in the intro, that's because I bought the car as a demo model. It's been a little while since I've done a range test, so I thought I'd do one at the relatively high highway speed of 110 kilometers an hour, just for those people that are thinking of buying an EV, or if you already have an EV or perhaps thinking of buying another one. Anyway, so if you're not already aware, they're the opposite to ICE cars, EVs. They will use a lot more energy going at highway speeds, and that's because of things like wind resistance and moving a heavy object at high speeds, and also because you're not doing any regenerative braking, which you would do if you were driving around town. So let's have a look at how well the Atto does at these high speeds and what sort of economy you can expect. So we're going to drive to a little roadhouse called Widgiemooltha, which is a couple of 100 k's return trip, and you can see we head down south towards Kambalda before turning west and then south, so it's around about 98 kilometers. You can see the first part of the trip here is heading down on the highway 94 down to Kambalda or Kambalda East. While we're there, we might go and check out Lake Lefroy, which is a salt lake, which I have shown on my channel before. Not sure how it will look. We've had some rain recently, so I'm hoping it'll look great. Then we're going to head about southwest towards the main highway, which goes south towards Esperance, and then down to Widgiemooltha itself. Now Widgiemooltha is just a little place. It's really just a roadhouse, little caravan park you can stay. And as you can see there, it's sort of as you're heading towards Esperance on the coast. Very quickly, my parameters for the test are 110 kilometers per hour for as much of the trip as possible, which should be well in excess of 90%. I'm going to have the aircon on a temperature of 18 degrees and a low fan setting of 2. And for the first part of the trip, I'm also going to test the odometer accuracy of the Atto versus the Google Maps. Alright, let's get into it. I'm just about ready to go here. I've charged to 95%. Trip meter's been reset. And we're going to head now to Kambalda. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, I'm going to see if the odometer matches what Google Maps says as well. So we'll do that test as well. So it's saying 60 kilometers to the lookout. Okay, so you can see I've set the cruise control to 112, and that's what it's reading there, so 110. And you can see it's a beautiful morning here, and now the instantaneous is showing 25 kilowatt hours, so that you can just see, like, going those high speeds, you really chew through the kilowatt hours of battery. Well, we're just over halfway to Kambalda, and I have to say it's beautiful driving weather. It's an absolutely gorgeous morning here. Very lovely weather. We're just about to reach 50 kilometers. There you go, 50 kilometers. It's showing the past 50 kilometers we're averaging 22.9, but of course we know that can be a little bit different to what the actual results are. But we've used 20% of the battery to get there, or nearly 20%. We've gone from 95 to, oh, it actually looks like it's just ticked over as well to 75%. Right, we're just driving into the beginning of Kambalda now, and let's go and head up to the lookout, and we'll go and check out those kilometers and see if the odometer is accurate. So according to Google Maps, I've done 60 kilometers to get here to this lookout. You can see we're only halfway up the hill, but I'm going on exactly what Google Maps said. and it's reading 59.1, so just a small discrepancy there in the odometer to what we actually did. So we're at the top of Red Hill Lookout here in Kambalda, and you can see it's got fabulous views of the salt lake below. And I'm pleased to say after all the rain the salt has come back up and it's going to look spectacular, so we'll go for a drive down there. So here we are on the edge of this massive salt lake. It's an ephemeral salt lake, Lake Lefroy, which means it fills up occasionally with water after rain. Now it's huge, I'll put how big it is on the screen. And if you've never walked in a salt lake before, well, it's pretty much like walking on snow. It's quite crunchy, and it just depends on how much moisture is still in the lake. So there was quite a little bit of moisture there, so I couldn't walk out too far, because I was starting to sink in and get a little wet. But yeah, we had a little look around and Zoe had a run. And yeah, it's really quite interesting to see, quite a spectacular place. A little bit eerie, and you get a real sense of isolation when you're out there walking around and even just driving the car out there. So quite a great place to visit. If you're ever in Kambalda, I highly recommend you go out and check out Lake Lefroy. Now let's check the economy so far. So we've done 66.4 kilometers and the percentage of battery is down to 72%. So let's put the figures on the screen. So the battery usage was 23% or 13.8 kilowatts, and that leaves us with an economy of 20.78 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. But remember, this is just the first part of the test. So if you ever do come this way, just make sure you stick to this dirt track here and don't go off to the sides, mainly because it can be wet and quite soggy. You can obviously get bogged, and secondly, you really don't want to be driving on salt because salt corrodes. And it's probably, I usually, when I get home, I usually hose off my car, even though I don't drive directly on the salt lake itself. But there are people who do, believe it or not, when it really dries out and gets really hard. It's actually a bit moist because we had a lot of rain recently. I couldn't walk out too far because yeah, my shoes are going to get all wet otherwise. That is the beautiful salt lake called Lake Lefroy, which is near Kambalda. And this road we're driving on here is quite appropriately named. It's called Silver Lake Road, which is a really nice name for a road. Right, we're ready to go here. We're leaving Kambalda and it's roughly 40 kilometers further now to get to Widgiemooltha. The Roadhouse has toilets and like a little restaurant. You can get drinks, food, fuel, ice, all sorts of stuff. So, and of course it has accommodation where you can even stay there. So yeah, quite a nice little interesting place. A little bit of history too, and just worth a look if you happen to be in the area. We are just about to leave here. We're 55% and we've done 111.7 kilometers. Alright, we're going back to Kalgoorlie now with no stops. The economy so far, well, we've travelled 111.7 kilometers we've used 40% of the battery, which equates to 24 kilowatts, and that means our current economy is 20.44 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And now we're going to travel directly back to Kalgoorlie, which should take just over an hour to get there, and according to Google Maps, it's about 98 kilometers to get home. Right, I'm back home, and you can see 208.8 kilometers was the total trip, and I'm down to 20%, so that's 75% of the battery I used, and we'll go and work out and do some figures now for you. Alright, final results. 208.8 kilometers was the distance. We used, like I said before, 75% of the battery, or 45 kilowatts. That means the final economy was 21.55 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. The expected range at that speed is 278 kilometers. In all honesty, it's not too bad an economy for many SUVs traveling at that speed, for an EV. However, that's one of the reasons why I like to go just a little bit slower at 100 kilometers, and then that you'll usually get another 30 or 40 kilometers range. So yeah, like it or not, that's just the way it is with the Atto. Of course, a bigger battery would be welcome, then you'd get a lot more range out of it. Now, I know these figures do jump around, it's just a rough estimate. It does depend upon how many passengers you're carrying, how much luggage, what the wind is like, how hilly it is. These will all impact on your test. It's just another data point in many, and you'll get different results as well. So they'll jump around, you just have to be aware of it. But the upside you need to take away from all of this is higher speeds will chew through the battery quicker. That is the main takeaway from all of this. Alright, that's another Atto range test done and dusted. Thanks for joining me, really appreciate it. We have got some really interesting episodes coming in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going into state and I'll be doing some filming there. So stay tuned for some interesting stuff. Alright, take care as always, and we'll see you soon with more on Down Under EV Adventures. Bye for now.